God, the one who disturbs us, the one who comforts us, the one who fills our souls with grace, love, and mercy. Amen. So it was a short reading tonight, so you get a short reflection and a short homily. It is very to the point. It's quite clear. If you treat righteous people in the way that they should be treated, you will receive the same gift. You will receive the gift of righteousness. If you treat people with the grace, love, and mercy that God treats us with, then you too will receive the gifts of grace, love, and mercy. If you treat a prophet with the honor and respect that the prophet deserves, you will receive the gift of the honor and respect that a prophet deserves. But here's the twist. If you read in Scripture what happens to the righteous, not the self-righteous, but the righteous, and if you read in Scripture what happens to the prophets, they don't come to a good end. So that's the bad news, is that prophets all too often end up getting killed because they say things that make people really uncomfortable and or angry. And the people who are truly righteous, if you think of the Beatitudes and Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount, the people who are truly righteous are thirsting and hungering after the peace and justice that all people deserve. That usually leads them down the path of being prophets, and I've already told you how most prophets end up. So it's kind of a double-edged promise that Jesus is giving. So there's two things. I mean, one, there's a very interesting and strange part of Christian history where people were seeking to become martyrs. They were trying so hard to be righteous and to be prophets that they couldn't wait to get themselves killed for the glory of God, which is really weird. And it's not actually what we lift up when we lift somebody up as a martyr. So nobody is calling in the Scripture for somebody to go out and seek death. Just to be absolutely crystal clear. There are still places in our church where we get these interesting messages that say, we should be seeking after that kind of an end. But I don't think that's what Jesus is telling us. It's not what God is calling us to do. But being afraid of the possibility of death is enough to put us off speaking with a prophetic voice and seeking righteousness. So this past Sunday and the week before, we were celebrating National Aboriginal Day, which we're told next year will be renamed to National First Peoples Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, and the church was celebrating the day of, National Day of Prayer, National Aboriginal Day of Prayer, which apparently we have been celebrating since the 70s, except I'll bet that you hadn't really heard of it until maybe the last few years. So where is that prophetic voice? I mean, all over the place now, which is good. We hear people acknowledging that they are on traditional First Nations land. So we are on the traditional lands of Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. But we can't just say the words and make that acknowledgement and leave it there as though our job is done. So speaking with a prophetic voice about real reconciliation. And what does that mean where we live here in St. Catharines? If we follow that through, it means that at some point we're probably going to say something that makes us unpopular with people in our community, people who may or may not be ready to hear those words and that call to reconciliation. But that is part of the history of the church, is living into that call of reconciliation. And so it's not just looking at the issues around our relationships with Indigenous people, First people of this land. It's looking at every other aspect of how we live life and what we do in the community. We're called to seek that righteousness that Scripture talks about. We are called to hunger and thirst for that peace and justice that God talks about and promises. We're called to speak with that prophetic voice that will get us into trouble. But we're also called to be that voice in the community calling for peace, calling for non-violence, calling for reason, which is an admirable part of the Anglican tradition. We are called into that ministry that Jesus set forth for the disciples and for the early church. We are the inheritors of the gift of righteousness, the gift of prophecy. And prophecy is not, crystal balls and somehow divine revelations. Prophecy is seeing the world around us and seeing the direction that we are going and saying, if we don't stop and if we don't change how we are, this is where we will end up. Looking at issues around environment, climate change, how we treat the world around us, just as important as how we treat the people in our community. We are called to a bar. We are called to a bar of righteousness, grace, love, and mercy. Be honest, it's a highly set bar. But that's the one that we are called to as followers of Christ. That's the one that we are called to as followers of Jesus. Will we make mistakes? Yes. Will we fall short? More than likely. But we keep trying. We strive so that we are helping to create a community of peace and love and justice where all can be accepted. Regardless of where we come from, who we are all God's children. We all deserve to be treated that way. Amen.